This is ChestertonRadio.com.
And here's the cinnamon bear.
I guess we're all pretty anxious to hear about Judy and Jimmy and their friends Cinnamon Bear and Crazy Quilt Dragon. For a while, it looked very much like the Wintergreen Witch was going to change them into a pincushion, a doormat, and 2 white mice. But they got away, and what was even nicer, got their precious silver star. The Crazy Quilt Dragon tucked it into his hind pocket for safekeeping, and they all climbed on his back and swam away from the island of Obi. But when they reached the mainland, the worst thing in the world happened. Crazy Quilt sat down to rest and broke the silver star into a dozen pieces. That's very, very bad. And you can just imagine what Judy has to say.
Oh, dear. We might just as well never have found the silver star as to have it broken.
Gee willikers, yes. Especially after all the things we did to get it back.
If you had to sit down, Crazy Quilt, why pick a rock to sit on?
Oh, I am abject. I'm speechless, but I beg you to realize that my mistake was unintentional.
Well, we know you didn't mean to do it. But gee, Crazy Quilt, couldn't you have used your head a little bit?
Don't go picking on poor Crazy Quilt. Of course he didn't mean to break the star, but making him feel bad isn't going to do any good. Oh, dear. We might just as well have Patty O'Cinnamon take us back to the attic again.
Yeah, I guess so.
Goodbye, Crazy Quilt. Thanks anyway for saving us from the Inkaboos and carrying us across the root beer ocean.
Yes, thanks for that, Crazy Quilt. You're a good dragon at heart.
How are we going to get back to the attic, Cinnamon Bear? The airplane is still at the bottom of Looking Glass Valley.
Maybe when Crazy Quilt has rested a little, he'll carry us a piece.
Oh, gladly. Anything to help atone for my frightful carelessness. Anything to... Wait.
What is it, Crazy Quilt? Have you got a pain?
A pain? No, I've a plan.
That's generally the same thing with you.
There's something that might be done yet.
Sure, and you've done everything that can be done, Crazy Quilt. You and your nonsense.
Just a minute, my feisty friend in the fur pajamas. Let me say my say.
Very well. What's on your alleged mind?
Why don't we go and see Melissa?
Splendid! Now, why didn't I think of that?
Who's Melissa?
Haven't you heard of her? Why, she's our queen, the ruler of Maybeland.
What could she do?
What can't she do, you mean? She's wonderful, so kind and generous. Everybody loves her.
That's swell. But what could she do about the silver star?
Anything, everything. She has wonderful powers. Nothing is impossible to her. Why, do you know once upon a time, I had the great misfortune to fall into a lemonade wishing well, and all my beautiful colors ran together.
I sure like to have seen you then.
I shall overlook your remark. Oh, I was a mess. I thought surely I'd never be able to hold up my head in society. But I went to Melissa, and she restored me to my natural beauty and splendor.
She certainly has a marvelous reputation, all right. I've always intended to go to court sometime and see her for myself, but I never quite got around to it.
Oh, goody. Maybe she can help us. Where does Melissa live?
Oh, she lives in her palace in the capital of Maybeland. That's capital M. A bit southish of the Lollipop Mountains, right in the middle of Marshmallow Meadows.
Maybe she'll know some way to have the star all put together again.
I'm sure she will. Will you take us there, Crazy Quilt?
Certainly. I'm quite as good on land as on water.
Everybody help me pick up the pieces of the star. Jimmy, let me have your hanky. It's bigger than mine.
Okay. Here it is.
Ah, here are some pieces.
Yeah, and here are some more.
I think Jimmy and I have all the rest. Hold out your hanky, Jimmy.
Okay.
There.
All right, now, let's get started. Climb on, everybody.
Up you go, Judy. Up, Jimmy. Well, run on. Outdo yourself, Crazy Quilt. Gallop of youth never galloped before.
This is the anteroom to the Queen's audience chamber. We'll have to wait here until time for us to see the Grand Wunke.
My goodness. How many more do we have to see before we get to see Melissa?
Yes, I never saw so many, whatchamacallums?
Secretaries.
Yes, things like that.
Oh, but you must remember, this is a royal court. You have to expect such things. After all, Melissa is the queen, and she's much too busy to bother with people unless they have really important business with her.
Who'd you say we had to see now?
The Grand Monkey. He's sort of head of all the ceremonies and presents everybody to Melissa.
I wish he'd hurry. My stuffing's getting very tired.
Oh, I don't mind waiting so much. It's so beautiful. I like to look down that big staircase and see all the people passing up and down.
Oh, here you are. So sorry to keep you waiting, but you know how it is, so much busy. Dear, 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 dear. Oh, you're not in court costume.
What's that?
It's what you wear when you come to see Melissa.
Well, never mind. It can't be helped now. I'll ask her to overlook the attire, inasmuch as you are unacquainted with court etiquette.
What does he mean?
He means that he's going to ask Melissa to skip it.
Oh, dear, 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 dear. Now let's see how we'll rearrange this. You're the Crazy Quilt Dragon, are you not? I'm sure I've seen you before. I'm very good at remembering places. I mean faces. That's my job. Now, where were we? Awfully nice of you to drop in and all that. And must come again sometime.
I'm Judy.
I'm Jimmy.
And I'm the Cinnamon Bear.
That's us, and we're very anxious to see Melissa. Is there anything special we have to do?
Oh, dear, 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 dear. Yes, the bow, you know, the bow. So...
I feel awfully silly doing that.
You don't have to. Just be polite, and that's all that's necessary.
And of course, I must announce you. Now let's see. What formation would look best? Let me see. The little girl first. Yes. Then I think the boy slightly behind her with the bear. Then the Crazy Quilt Dragon bringing up the rear guard.
Bringing up what? Does he have to carry something?
No. He's to stand behind you.
Well, why didn't you say that in the first place?
I just like hurrying you, Grand Wonky, but our time is short and our business very important. Now, you just sort of forget a few formalities and announce us to Her Majesty like a good Wonky.
I think everything is in order. Do you mind if I adjust your green bow, little bear?
I'd thank you to keep your hands off me bow, and my name is Patio Cinnamon, if you please.
Oh, yes, of course. Now, I think we may enter now.
It's about time.
Ouvrez la porte!
What's that mean, that ouvre, well, what you just said?
Well, that's French for open the door.
Well, why didn't you just say open the door instead of that French stuff?
Because this happens to be a French door and won't open unless you speak French. So there. Ouvrez la porte! My, those hinges need oiling dreadfully. Must make a note about that. See about oil for hinges. Now, are we all hunky-bunky?
Yes, Wonky.
Dudley, the fanfare. Oh, thank you, Dudley. That was lovely. Thank you. Now, friends, you may enter the presence of Queen Melissa of Maybeland.
Ooh. Oh, my goodness. Isn't she beautiful, Jimmy?
You bet. Why, she's nearly as pretty as Mother, I'd say.
Look at her throne. It's all shiny.
All gold, children. 18 carats, solid gold.
It looks like there's something shiny all about her, too. It must be more magic.
It is. That protects her from anything touching her. Nothing could get close enough to hurt her.
I sure never saw anything like this before.
Will you please come closer?
Her Majesty desires you to approach. Be sure you don't go too close. Your Majesty, may I present Miss Judy?
How do you do?
Fine, thanks, but we...
Mr. Jimmy.
I'm so happy to see you.
And we're glad to see you.
And this is...
The Crazy Quilt Dragon, of course. How are you?
Oh, very well, Your Majesty. Thank you.
And last but not least...
Well, who is this fuzzy little person with the green ribbon round his neck? Who are you, little friend?
I'm the cinnamon bear with the shoe button eyes, and I'm helping these children recover a prize. It's a silvery star that was fashioned, you see, for the very tip-top of a big Christmas tree. Though we've hunted low and we've hunted high, we cannot get it back, no matter how we try. A most crazy quilt dragon made off with it first, then a whale ate it up, but that isn't the worst. Oh, it's been through 100 adventures since then. We just lose it and find it and lose it again. So we've looked and looked till we're almost blue. And if you'll help us out, we're much obliged to you.
So you see, Your Majesty?
Call me Melissa, won't you? We're all going to be friends, and friends shouldn't be too formal.
That suits me. All this wonky business about bowing and everything.
I know how you feel, Jimmy, but I must give the Grand Wonky something to do. He'd feel very unhappy otherwise.
Well, you see, Melissa, the Cinnamon Bear told you part about what happened to our lovely Silver Star, but lots of things happened to it after that.
And the last thing was, the Wintergreen Witch cast a spell on me and forced me to steal the star and take it to her.
The Wintergreen Witch? Grand Wonky, make a note that I must take up the case of the Wintergreen Witch at my next council meeting. She's been practicing magic without a license.
No, dear me, yes, Your Majesty. Fix witch. Good and proper.
She was going to change us into things. Then I showed her a looking glass, and she got awful scared and let us go.
And Crazy Quilt took us across the root beer ocean,
But he sat down on the star and broke it into a dozen pieces.
So we thought maybe you could help us get it fixed.
Of course I can help you.
You can? Oh, that's wonderful.
Now you just listen very carefully to everything I say, and your Silver Star will be restored.
Well, that's quite the best news Judy and Jimmy have had since they started out on their adventurous trip through Maybeland. Let's be sure to listen next time and find out how Queen Melissa plans to get the broken Silver Star back into one piece.
Podcasts of works by G.K. Chesterton, plus drama, comedy, mystery, science fiction, big bands, and much more. The soundtrack to your Chesterton day at chestertonradio.com.
Gentlemen, the Colgate-Palmolive Peat Company, makers of Colgate Dental Cream, take this opportunity to wish you a Merry Christmas. And now, Colgate Dental Cream presents the Dennis Day Show, written by Frank Galen, with Sharon Douglas, Dink Trout, Paula Winslow, Charles Dant in the orchestra, yours truly, Vern Smith, and starring our popular young singer in A Day in the Life of Dennis Day. Here's Dennis to sing A Gal in Calico.
Met a gal in Calico way down in Santa Fe. I used to be her Sunday beau till I rolled away. Do I want her? Do I want her love? Yes, sirree. Will I win her? See, working with the rodeo, go from town to town, see most every kind of gal, every kind of gown. But who made my heart sing, yippee-I, yippee-oh, my little gal in calico. I'm gonna quit yippee-o, gonna settle down by a boat, a calico, for a wedding gown. Then will I enter in? Yippee-I, yippee-o, my little gal in calico.
Most of you know our young hero, Dennis, very well by this time, but those of you who will be making his acquaintance for the first time on these Wednesday nights would probably like to know just what sort of person he is. Well, let's ask the folks who know him best. First, there's his landlady, Mrs. Anderson, who runs the boarding house in Weaverville where Dennis rooms. Mrs. Anderson, what's your honest opinion of Dennis Day?
My opinion of Dennis Day is that he's a 22-year-old boy.
Well, yes, of course, but what sort of 22-year-old boy?
Well, I'm sorry, but that's as far as I care to go on.
Well, it's a fact that Dennis has never managed to get into Mrs. Anderson's good graces. Now, Mr. Anderson, on the other hand, kind of likes him, although he's never come right out and admitted it. And just why haven't you, Mr. Anderson?
Well, it all goes back to when I first married my dear wife. Or, as I like to call her, the big woman.
Go on, Mr. Anderson.
You see, when we were married, we made a pact, Poopsie and I. We decided we'd always think and act as one person. Of course, I didn't know then that the one person would turn out to be Poopsie.
Oh, I see. Well, there's one member of the Anderson family who likes Dennis and makes no bones about it. That's their daughter, Mildred, our young hero's girlfriend. Right now, on this fine Christmas morning, she's carefully planted herself under the mistletoe in the Anderson living room as Dennis comes down for breakfast.
Morning, Mildred. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Dennis.
Boy, I sure am hungry this morning. See you after breakfast, huh?
Why, Dennis, wait.
What's the matter?
Well, don't you notice? I'm standing someplace.
Well, that happens very often when you're not sitting down.
I don't mean that silly. Now, look around carefully. Don't you see anything different?
You're wearing a new dress?
No, higher.
You washed your face?
Dennis, what's over my head?
Here.
I mean on the chandelier. Don't you see what's tied to it? A piece of mistletoe.
Oh, I see now. Pretty, isn't it?
Dennis, I'm standing right under it.
Well, don't worry. A little thing like that couldn't hurt you if it did fall off.
Didn't you ever hear of mistletoe, Dennis? If a man happens to find a girl standing under it, he can kiss her.
Gosh, really?
Yes. And you happen to find me standing under it. Well.
Oh, I couldn't take advantage of an accident.
But it wasn't an accident, Dennis. I stood here on purpose.
Mildred.
I did it so you'd kiss me. I want you to kiss me.
You women are all alike. No one wants my brains, only my kisses.
Dennis, I want you.
I know how desirable I am, but you should fight it.
I'm tired of arguing about it. Come here, Dennis Day.
Please, Mildred, you're mussing my hair.
I don't care. Now stand still.
Well, so that's the sort of thing that goes on in my house.
Mother.
Hello, Mrs. Anderson. What's new?
Don't put on any act with me. I saw you kissing my daughter. Give me one reason why I should walk in and find such a thing going on.
We didn't expect you.
Well, it was all my fault, Mother. Really, it was. You see, it's Christmas, and there was mistletoe, and I was standing under it, and... Well, anyway, it was only a little peck on the cheek.
That's true, Mrs. Anderson, and I promise it won't happen again until we've been married for years.
Married, indeed. Young man, you've been nothing but trouble to me since you began boarding here. I suggest that you look for another place to live as soon as you can.
But, Mrs. Anderson...
That's my last word on the subject.
Gee, now I'm in a fine mess.
Golly, I'm sorry, Dennis. You wouldn't have gotten in trouble if only I hadn't insisted on kissing you.
Oh, that's all right. As a matter of fact, I kind of like being kissed.
Oh, did you, Dennis?
Yeah. I see now why so many people speak so well of it.
Mother doesn't really make you move.
No, it wouldn't be much of a Christmas if she did.
Oh, dear, I nearly forgot with so many things going on.
What?
There's a little present for you inside, underneath the tree. For me.
Gosh, thanks, Mildred. I hope you won't be too disappointed, but I didn't have enough money to buy you an expensive present this year.
Oh, well, that's all right, Dennis. I'll be every bit as happy with a present that costs practically nothing.
I didn't have enough to buy you one of those either.
Oh, well, don't feel badly. I understand.
Next year I'll be able to give you something real nice to make up for it after my invention is put on the market.
Your invention?
Yeah, I haven't told you because I wanted it to be a surprise. You see, one day last week, Mrs. Courtney came into the drugstore to get something for a terrible headache. So I made up a wet pack out of some stuff I found, and she put it on her head.
And it cured her headache?
No, it made her headache worse, but it curled her hair.
Oh, my goodness.
I haven't told a soul yet, but I think I've invented a permanent wave solution. It should be worth millions.
Oh, I should say so. Have you tried it on anyone besides Mrs. Courtney?
No, but Mr. Willoughby's police dog sat in some the other day.
And what happened?
Well, the part that barks is still police dog, but the part that wags is pure French poodle.
Oh, Dennis, that's marvelous.
I'm improving it all the time. Why, just yesterday I put some powder from France I found in the place.
Oh, golly, I've just had the most wonderful idea.
What?
My mother's got to know about this. Why, when she sees what you've got hold of, she'll never let you move out.
Oh, she won't believe it's any good if I invented it.
Oh, but that's just it. She's got to try some herself.
But how are we going to get her to do that?
Oh, look, she's in the next room. You go in and hint in a subtle way that she doesn't look quite as attractive for Christmas as she might. Her hair looks a little stringy. And then you show her your invention and ask her to try some on her head.
Golly, I'll do it. I've got a jar of it right here in my pocket.
Good. Oh, but you've got to be very diplomatic about telling her she could look more attractive.
Here goes. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes?
You know, I was just thinking, you're pretty ugly today. Oh, I don't mean all over, just above your neck.
How dare you talk to me like that?
Mrs. Anderson, wait, you don't understand. What I meant is you're beautiful, only your hair spoils it.
My hair?
Yeah, it's so straight. Why, if you had curly hair, you could look just like Lana Turner all over instead of just locally.
Oh, that's very sweet of you, Dennis. Oh, but my hair's always been straight. Even a permanent doesn't curl it.
Well, I have some stuff right here that will, Mrs. Anderson. If you'll just put some on your head in 2 or 3 minutes, you'll be amazed.
Well, if it's as good as all that, I certainly will try it.
That's swell. Come out and show Mildred. Well, Oh, good morning, Mr. Anderson.
Good morning, Dennis. My lover girl in there?
Yes, but don't go in, Mr. Anderson. You're going to get a surprise in a minute.
I am?
Yeah. How would you like it if your wife suddenly became Lana Turner?
Outside of Lana Turner suddenly becoming my wife, I can't think of anything nicer.
Well, you just wait.
You really think it'll work, Dennis?
Oh, sure. And with that French powder I put in yesterday to make it smell nice, she'll just love it.
Well, what kind of French powder was it?
Oh, I don't know. Only the name of the maker was on the box. Some fellow named Plaster of Paris.
Plaster of Paris? Oh, Dennis, no.
I did something?
Did something? Oh, we're finished forever.
Mildred, what do you mean?
Yes, what are you two talking about?
Well, how do I look? Well, my head feels awfully peculiar.
Oh, really, Mother?
Yes. How do you like it, Herbert?
Oh, very nice, Poopsie. That's the first sensible hat I've ever seen you wear.
Hat? I'm not wearing a hat.
You mean that's you?
Well, certainly. This is my new hairdo.
Don't you think you overdoed it?
What do you mean? Get out of the way so I can see myself in the mirror. Why, I don't... Ah! Dennis! My hair! It's ruined! Listen to it.
Well, there's nothing to worry about, Mrs. Anderson. I'll have your head in fine shape as soon as I get hold of a hammer.
Oh, a hammer?
Yeah, that's the only way I can get that shiny white crust off your head.
Fine thing. It was supposed to be Lana Turner and me. Now it's the egg and I.
Oh, here, use this, Dennis. The fire tongs.
Okay. Hold still, Mrs. Anderson.
Oh.
There, see?
Dennis, say, I told you once today to leave this house as soon as you can. Well, I can't wait. You're leaving this instant.
Mrs. Anderson, I was only trying to help.
Get out of my sight. That's final. Come, Herbert.
Gee, didn't turn out to be a very Merry Christmas, did it, Mildred?
No, I'm afraid not. Oh, but don't worry, Dennis. We'll find some way to see each other.
Gee, I hope so.
Oh, well, Dennis, listen.
Yeah, a bunch of kids singing carols. It'd be kind of nice to have them in, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. Open the door, Dennis. Let's have them in.
Okay. Hey, fellas, come on in. Mrs. Anderson may have something for you.
Okay, come on, guys.
You better shake the snow off your shoes. Mrs. Anderson is very particular about her rugs.
Come on in, boys.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Hey, what about that little fellow out there in the snow? Isn't he coming in?
Nah, he don't sing with us. He just follows us around.
Yeah, everywhere we go, he tags along and we can't get rid of him.
He's a pest.
Hey, fellas, why don't you come up here on the porch? You'll catch cold out there. Come on up. Don't be afraid. What's your name?
Cecil?
Oh, your name is Cecil, huh?
Yes, sir. Cecil.
Well, come on up, Cecil.
Yes, sir.
See, you are catching cold.
I'm not cold.
You're not crying, are you?
Yes, sir.
You are? But this is Christmas. You shouldn't be crying on Christmas.
Yes, sir.
What are you crying about, Cecil?
They won't let me sing with them.
They won't let you sing with them? Why not?
I got braces on my teeth. They say I don't sing good.
Well, I don't believe it. I'll just bet that you're a real good singer.
No, I'm not. I don't really sing good.
You don't?
No, sir, I don't sing good, but I like to sing anyway. I like to sing more than anything in the whole world.
Sure you do. And that's what makes singing really important. To want to sing from the bottom of your heart, whether you can really sing or not.
It is?
It certainly is. You know, once upon a time there was a little boy just like you. Well, this little boy wanted to sing more than anything else in the whole world.
Honest?
Uh-huh. And one night he had a vision. And the vision told him never to stop singing, because someday he would sing for the king.
What's a vision?
A vision? Oh, a vision is something like a dream, I think. Well, this little boy...
What is his name?
His name? Oh, I don't know what his name was. You see, it was a very long time ago.
How long ago?
Oh, a long, long time ago.
Did he sing over the radio?
No, this was long before radios and phonographs and moving pictures.
Before Jack Benny?
Yes, even before that. It was a long, long time ago in a land far, far away. The little boy came from a very poor family. Though his father and mother worked hard, they could barely buy enough bread to eat. The boy had no shoes to wear, and his clothes were ragged and torn. But he didn't care, for he was happy. He had a song in his heart.
Life is fair on a summer's day. Sweet the western wind is blowing. La, 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 la.
One day his father called the boy to his side and said, "Why is it, my son, that you always sing? We are poor and have little for you to sing and be happy about." And the boy answered, "I am happy, Father, for someday I know I shall sing for the king." And his father said, "That foolish vision of yours, you must forget such nonsense, for a poor ragged boy like you will never sing for the king." And the boy said, "Told me so. It was so clear to me, Father. A voice spoke to me and said that I had been chosen to sing for the king." His father was sorely troubled. He shook his head sadly and sighed. "My son, you must put such idle dreams out of your head, for tomorrow you shall start to work for the rich landowner who lives on the hill." "Gladly, Father, and I shall sing as I work, for someday my song will be heard by the king." The boy's father returned to his work, knowing that his words could not shake his son's faith in his vision, his tattered clothes flapping in the breeze, and his shoeless feet kicking up the dust. The dust rose and danced with the sunbeams, leaving a happy trail behind the boy as he sang.
Life is fair on a summer's day. Sweet the western wind is blowing. La, 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 la.
And so the boy went to work for the rich landowner. He tended to the flocks of sheep and to the goats. At dusk, when the boy would drive the flocks home from the meadows, the hooves of the animals would make a gentle sound on the road. And with this as music, the boy would sing. Life is fair on a summer's day. Sweet the western wind is blowing. La, 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 la. One day, not long after, the landowner called the boy to him and said,
Hearken to me, boy. I pay you to care for my flocks, not to fill the air with your incessant song.
I'm sorry, master. I meant to bother no one with my singing. The sheep and the goats don't mind.
I am neither a sheep or a goat, so I mind.
You see, master, I must sing, for someday my song will be heard by the king.
Ah, you're mad, boy. Yea, mad and also stupid. Sing for the king. Be gone with you. Be gone with you.
But, master, I shall sing for the king. You will see. And so it came to pass that the boy, laughed at and ridiculed by all who knew him, left and went to the great city to sing for the king. Never had the boy seen such a city. Great buildings lined the streets, and the greatest of all was the palace of the king. There were many steps that led up to the palace gates, and the gates themselves were as tall as a tree. He felt very small and afraid as he ascended the steps. He would have run away, but he kept thinking of his vision. With this to give him strength, he was no longer afraid. He climbed, and finally, tired and out of breath, he reached the uppermost step. Smoothing down his ragged garments, he approached the gates. And hesitantly, he knocked upon them. He waited breathlessly as the gates slowly opened.
Who knocks at the palace of the king?
The boy looked up at the tall guard and said, I did.
Ragged beggar, what is it you want?
I am not a beggar.
Speak up! What is it you want?
I have come because of a vision. I have come to sing for the king.
You? Sing for the king? You, a ragged beggar boy, have come to sing for the king!
The guard laughed and laughed. Other guards came, and they, too, joined in the laughter. They laughed even more when the boy told them of his vision. Then, tiring of their laughter, they picked the boy up and cast him down the many steps to the street below. And slammed the gates shut. The boy picked himself up out of the dirt at the bottom of the steps, and sadly, with his head bent, he walked away from the palace. That night, weary from his journey and unable to travel further, the boy stopped to rest by the side of a hill. Sheep were grazing nearby, and as he fell asleep, the boy knew that he would never sing again. He was awakened that night by a strange light, a light that transformed everything about him, a light from a great star that shone above. There wasn't a sound. All was hushed. A hush, a quiet, a silence beyond words to describe. Even the sheep on the hillside and the doves in the trees seemed to sense the silence. And then the light seemed to become even brighter, bathing all in a glow that made them one. The boy, the hill, the earth, the grass, the animals, all became one, and one alone. The boy raised himself from the ground, not daring to breathe. Then he felt a song swelling in his throat. He could contain himself no longer. Something was compelling him to sing. He stood up straight and small on the hill. What if they had laughed at him? What if his song was unwanted? He felt he must sing now, here now in this divine night. So he stood, his tattered clothes shimmering in the light of the star above, were like the raiment of angels. And he sang. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Maria, gratia plena. when he finished his song, the boy saw a man coming up the hill toward him. The man was a shepherd, and he carried a crooked staff. The boy said, "I thought I was alone here on the hill." And the shepherd said, "You will never be alone again, boy. No man will ever be alone again." And then the shepherd turned and pointed down the hill. And the boy looked and saw a small stable nestled below. And the shepherd, turning to the boy, said, "Tonight, my son, you sang for a king. Verily, the King of Kings." And so you see, Cecil, if your heart is full of song, you must sing. Oh, I didn't know you folks were listening.
It was a lovely story, Dennis.
It was beautiful, Dennis.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was a very nice story.
And I'm sorry I got so angry with you. I hope you forgive me, Dennis.
Oh, sure. That's all right, Mrs. Anderson.
Cecil, would you like to sing with us?
Can I? Oh, gosh, I'd love to sing with you. I'd love to sing with you. Will you let me, honest? Will you let me sing with you?
Sure. How about we all sing together?
Colgate-Palmolive Peat Company, makers of Colgate Dental Cream, hope you've enjoyed a very pleasant Christmas and sends to every one of you best wishes for the new year. Dennis Day can be heard with Jack Benny every Sunday. And be sure and be with us again next week for another Dennis Day program. More songs, more adventures in the life of our star, Dennis Day. Christmas story, The Boy Who Sang for the King, was written by Frank Tashlin. Bobby Driscoll, who played the part of Cecil, appeared through the courtesy of Walt Disney and can be seen in the Technicolor picture Song of the South. All the other parts in the Christmas story were played by Dennis, of course. The special musical background was by Charles Dant. This is Vern Smith speaking.
This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
This is Chesterton Radio, the true, good, and beautiful at chestertonradio.com.
Don't turn that dial. This is the right station if you want to hear the story of Jonathan Thomas and his Christmas on the Moon. Now, of course, you remember about Jonathan Thomas, of how he went to the moon and made a promise. But in case you don't know what it's quite all about, so you won't have even the tiniest doubt, Jonathan Thomas and the man in the moon are searching for old Santa, and they must find him soon, for the wicked squibobliums who broke all the laws kidnapped poor old Santa Claus. And there can't be a Christmas at all this year without him, and you know the time draws near. Well, now, of course, you remember the wicked old witch who lives in the land of Rumpelstitch, why, you'd think she was double. She's caused so much trouble to put to the test their very good friend, the good fairy queen, who's helped them no end. And the three little dwarfs who taught them to say the magical word of on, squeen, on, squeak, giggly vey, which helped them a lot, as far as they've got. Remember, the queen gave them a charm to take, a magical acorn to keep them awake as they went through the nightmare forest so deep. And she said, remember, you can't go to sleep. And then they passed a dragon whose fiery breath nearly sent all of them right to their death. And then, when they reached the forest so dark, a little white squirrel, kind of just for a lark, named Whiskery Bill, why, he drove them quite mad, for he teased them, and that's always bad, till Jonathan Thomas fell off the horse. And he fell even further than that, of course, for without the magical acorn to keep, why, naturally, he fell very sound asleep. And nothing except a bright red rose could wake him up. And my goodness knows there wasn't a red rose anywhere to be had. And so Whiskery Bill, he felt pretty bad, till the rose bush told that on the long rainbow he'd find some red rubies. And with them, she could grow a red rose. And so he hurried and was very much worried until he met a walrus who said he'd go along and show him the way so he wouldn't go wrong. Well, they got the rubies with a great deal of trouble. As a matter of fact, their troubles were double. And the rose bush, so kind, said that she didn't mind if she worked after hours to grow beautiful flowers, and she grew them a rose and kept her promise. And now we can wake up little Jonathan Thomas. That is, I hope, because on the way back, the ice on the river they were crossing went crack. And you'll have to admit it's a horrible sin, but Whiskery Bill and the walrus fell in. And, but then, here's where the story begins again.
Help! I've fallen in! Oh, my goodness gracious, I can't swim!
Keep afloat somehow or other, and I'll rescue you before you smother. Strike me pink, this water is wet, but never you mind, I'll save you yet. Here now, you ain't dead, but you will be if you don't climb up on my head.
Well, hold me up until I get set. Oh, my gracious, I'm soaking wet.
Now then, up you go and have a care on top of me head. It's drier up there.
Oh, I'm glad you're here, because you're as good as a boat, and Jiminy Crickets, I can't even float.
Well, of course now, swimming is what all walruses are for. Come on now, we'll strike out for the shore, and we'll get there fast without an itch. This was the doings of that wicked old witch. But never you mind, it won't take long, and we could pass the time if we sang a song.
Well, that suits me swell, if I can manage to sing and hold on as well.
Oh, swimming over the river wide. We're as wet can be, but as dry inside. So, swimming, this is the way it goes. Oyster mainsail, man the pumps, yahoo, and there she blows. Oh, swimming over the river wide.
Oh, magic mirror on the wall, speak and say what doth befall Whiskery Bill and his walrus friend.
I see them both at the river's bend, O mighty witch of Rumpelstitch.
That's very good, for I knew you would. And now I'll laugh and cackle, for my magic spell has worked well, and they're both as dead as a mackerel.
Not so, O witch, for there's been a hitch in the spell that you worked so well. It will make you frown, but they did not drown. And something else you may know as well. They're steadily sailing, without even failing, northeast by east, Steady as they go.
Oh, curses on them. I've been tricked, but nevertheless I'm not yet licked. I'll sit me down and plot and scheme to think up things which they'll never dream.
Is that a threat or just a promise?
Stop sassing me and wait and see what happens to Jonathan Thomas. What happens to Jonathan Thomas?
Hi-day and whippity-snack. Look at me, for I've come back.
Yuck, yuck. For gracious sakes to goodness, look who's arrived.
Yep, and how awfully hard I've strived. But now we're in clover, 'cause that's all over. And now I can keep my promise. Here, take this rose and hold it to the nose of poor little Jonathan Thomas.
Oh, hey, nunny, nunny, and hey, hey, hey. If this isn't really a happy day.
Hurry up with the rose. For goodness knows you haven't got all day to take. I've hurried and I've worried and hustled and bustled just so you could make him awake. So hurry up and don't dawdle and never mind all this fiddle faddle.
That's what I say. There's time for play and there's time for work. And when it's that time, you shouldn't shirk. Well, for goodness sake, don't push me so. I'm hurrying so fast as I can go.
Put the rose under his nose so he can smell it well.
That's what I'm doing. But as far as I can tell, there's not even a sign of his breath. My gracious to goodness and Jimmy Crickets, he's as quiet and still as death.
Oh, but he can't be dead, 'cause the Fairy Queen said, and I heard her as plain as day, put the red rose right under his nose, and then he'll wake up. Hey!
He's moving his arm.
It's breaking the charm.
He's beginning to mutter.
Oh, I'm so nervous I could stutter. I'm so upset I could fly.
Jiminy Crickets and gracious to goodness, look, he's opening one eye.
I think I'm going to cry.
By Jove, I say.
For goodness sake, he's wide awake. Hello. Hello.
Jonathan Thomas, you're wide awake.
Of course I am. Of course he is.
Strike me pink, what a biz.
Gee whiz. Oh, my gracious. I guess I must have been asleep.
For more than a week.
Really and truly?
Of course.
You fell off the horse. And how we did quake, 'cause you wouldn't awake. Oh, now I remember. We were in a nightmare for it. And when I fell off the horse, I didn't have the magic acorn to keep me from falling asleep.
But now you're awake, for goodness sake, and you won't go to sleep again. The witch of Rumpelstiltskin.
That's quite true. And how do you do?
None of your business. How do we do? We won't tell you.
You're not very polite, but that's quite all right.
Why don't you go away?
Yes, why don't you go away?
I will, when I've said what I've got to say.
You're badder than bad. You old coffee nerves, Ad. And you'd better get out of here. We'll make it so hot you'll wish you had got you and your horrible sneer.
You keep quiet, you walrusy one. Or you'll wish you had before I'm done.
Yeah.
Now listen to me, you foolish three. If you go ahead, you'll all be dead. And things will be black if you don't turn back.
They're not going to.
Who's talking to you?
Well,
and what's more, I can tell that you'll scream and yell when you meet with the things I've planned. But if it's wisdom you lack and you don't turn back, you'll never reach the sweet Oblium land.
You shut up, you old pickle face, and go on back to your own place. For it's truer than true. You're nothing but a nothing. You just get the stuffing knocked right out of you.
I'm not afraid of your threat, and I'll get you yet. You'll see how I keep my promise. I'll get you, and you, and yes, even you. And you too, little Jonathan Thomas. Yes, and you too, little Jonathan Thomas.
Oh, my goodness. Why doesn't that old witch mind her own business and leave poor little Jonathan Thomas alone? What in the world do you think she'll do? I wish I knew, don't you? But we'll find out, I guess, in the next story of Jonathan Thomas and his Christmas on the Moon. So don't forget to listen, will you? My goodness, I won't.
Listening to Chesterton Radio at chestertonradio.com.